Quitter's doing. He says that, and it's something that caught my eye because we've been taught all along that quitters never win. But at some point, you will actually realize that cutting off some relationships makes you win.
Dating is not a destination. Dating is a journey. It's a journey. And it's a journey to determine if this person, we can work something out in terms of marriage. So it has to be open-minded. If we cannot, we break it off.
Hi guys, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. I know guys, it's been quite a while without us conversing here at Book Club, but we are back and I'm so glad that I am back. I'm back with Lois. Karibu Lois.
Thank you
so much. Good to have you.
Glad to be back.
Tunapeana excuse gani? There is no excuse, but we've been up to a lot of things, the transitions. BP, who's one of us, transitioned from class space to office space. So we thank God for that, and here we are, also dealing with a lot. We had to get something settled, but we are back, guys.
Like we never left.
Like we never left. Question is, what have you been reading? Have you been reading?
I have been reading. I have been reading. And a very interesting book that you're going to go through today. It's a very rich book, actually. We're just going to like brush through. We can't cover everything in that book.
Yeah. And I know that it's a book people have seen, have read, have interacted with, even through not only the book, but other forms of bringing it to us. The other did a sermon series on the same. And guys, I already know you can guess what book we are tackling today, and we are doing Relationship Goals by Mike Todd. So yeah, right into it.
And something interesting is that there's a movie coming up. So for those who are very lazy and cannot read,
which we are not encouraging it at Book Club, by the way.
I think Mike Todd would have asked us before releasing the movie, because we're all about, reading. But it's fine. For this one, we can just pass, go watch the movie.
It's true.
Once it's out.
It's true. And it's coming up very soon. We don't have the date exactly, but watch out for that. And I love the book from the very cover. Like, of course, Mike Todd had to put for us a big picture of himself, the face behind. And guys, we keep saying that we usually want to really have the physical and hard copy of the books, but yeah, didn't happen. People borrow. Yeah, you know how it is.
And books are never returned, by the way, which is a bad
habit. Why is that? Why is that? I really don't get it. But it's fine. We forgive you. So I was finding that cover, and I have it right here from my soft copy, and it's beautiful. He says it's how to win at dating, marriage, and sex. 3 very key things, which he really wants us to win at dating, marriage, and sex.
And I'm sure everyone wants to win at that.
Exactly.
You don't want to have a bad record in those things. And the other thing is that he's an interesting guy. He is a pastor. So you're getting information from the right source. Because again, we need to look at who is speaking to me. So he's a pastor with his wife, Natalie. And they are both giving an input into the book, which is also very nice.
Yeah, it's actually, it's just like Ernest did with Waturi in basics, working together as a couple. It actually makes sense that they are winning at that, so the readers can win at it too. So Mike Todd really gave effort, and I mean, it seems like he gave his all into the book, and he gave us 9 beautiful chapters, and that is what we are going to skim through, as Lois said, because there is a lot that we would wish to tackle, but we can't, because 200 and something pages.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. So right into it, chapter 1. No, first of all, he takes us back to his childhood,
which I found very funny.
Why?
Including pictures of himself as he grew up, and he starts with little Mike Todd in a crib.
True. His mom must be a good, what is it called?
People who keep records.
Because I don't.
But again, clutter. People who keep records.
There is a lot of clutter in that. Well, I don't know. Where do you lie? We'll get to that probably in some other conversation. And remember, guys, during this conversation, it's been what we've been tackling as our series for the month, which spilled over due to the reasons earlier mentioned. So we were doing relationship goals, and this is helping us to wind up on the same because it's about time we're winning in relationships. So in chapter 1, well, apart from the introductions, he brings us to taking aim, you know, and this is where he brings the idea of ripping up lists that we have. And we were talking earlier with you and actually realized he's not giving us a clear definition of relationship goals itself. It's actually what the society has portrayed with the relationship goals hashtags from social media, you know, Instagram, YouTube.
You know, it's very likely even for you to just you're going through social media and you see a couple's picture and you're like, oh, goals.
I know,
because that's what you made it to be.
Yeah.
But he brought this other different, you know, perspective to it. It's more than what is in the social media. It's more than cute pictures. It's more than matchy outfits. I have nothing against it.
By the way, matching outfits are awesome. I want to match a kitenge with someone someday.
Amen. 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 But he doesn't give a clear definition. So he goes around to show us relationship goals can be a lot of things.
It's true.
Relationship goals can be your relationship being aligned to God's purpose for a relationship, which is oneness. Once you're able to achieve oneness in your relationships, that's a relationship goal.
True. Nice.
He goes ahead also to talk about progression.
Yeah.
That it's not about perfection.
There's
no perfect relationship.
True.
But as long as you're progressing, you're better than you were yesterday, that's a goal.
It's a goal. And I love to mention that he brings it out God's way, which is very important. Apart from him being a pastor, you know, it's good to acknowledge that God is the one that came up with the idea of relationships. True. He's relational. We've mentioned that before in our conversations. And it's important to know that God is behind the whole idea of relationships. From him creating Adam and Eve, bringing them together as partners, you know.
True.
And even the relationship for us, the what is it, vertical one,
relationship
through Jesus Christ. I mean, that's just something that we should have in mind even as we go through the book, so we know that we are not tending to lie on the worldly side.
The God side.
Yeah, God side of it. So that is basically it. And on ripping up lists, we have very much found ourselves in spaces where we have a list. You know, I want to talk
25 of them.
I want a guy with beard. What is
tall.
These days, I don't even know what
should be in the corporate world, and he should also be a minister. My friend, most who are ministers are not in the corporate world.
It's true. That is what they do from morning to evening. A minister. But people want. I was watching a conversation by ladies which actually trended. They want a person who can cook, not me coming from the office and finding the cutlery there, you know, sufurias that you used, food that you ate yourself, and you expect such conversations. Lists people have that we need to rip up, as Mike Todd mentions in chapter 1 of the book.
True.
But then again, even while he brings out the idea of ripping up lists and taking the aim, knowing exactly why you're dating, why you're relating, he brings us to before the person in chapter 2.
There has to be purpose. Purpose before the person. And he gave an analogy of Adam, that before Adam met Eve, before God even brought, because it's God who brought Eve to Adam, Adam had purpose. Adam had already been given the garden to tend it. Adam had already been given an assignment to name the animals and all that. And it clearly showed that before the person, Adam could function whole. He was a whole individual.
A whole being, yeah.
And like nowadays, that I want to meet someone who would complete me. I want to meet someone, then I can, you know, I can be complete. Must be fulfilled or something. You are whole as you are.
True.
And as long as you're not in purpose, mostly you'll also meet someone who's not in purpose. And what that brings is a confused life.
True.
Yeah. So purpose before person.
Which again is complicated. We could evade all that if only we we know why we are, why were we created, why, what is my purpose in life again? Do I feel fulfilled even without the person? Yeah, I think that makes sense, and it brought me even to thinking of a sermon, part of his sermon series where he mentioned other things, well, apart from purpose, yeah, and I think that is something people will go through. Maybe we will indicate all those things in the description, but watch out for that. And in chapter 3, well, I told you guys we will only be skimming through, so it's important you go back and read the book, the S word. This one caught my eye because honestly, when you hear the S word, you would think sex.
And given his title, he was like winning in marriage, relationships, and sex. So the S word would have been sex. But again, it's not.
The twist, he's very interesting, yeah? He brings up the twist and
the suspense and all that.
Yeah.
I really can't wait for the movie though. In as much as they talk about reading.
Yeah, I know, right?
He should be a character actually in the movie. I think he'd make a good one.
He would?
Yeah, he would.
Okay, we'll see. We are really watching out for that. So he talks about singleness. We were earlier doing a research on the two words, singlehood and singleness. We feel like he would have used singlehood because singleness is quite different in the meaning.
In the meaning, because singleness is the state of, you know, having attention to one particular thing. Like you have singleness of mind, singleness of heart. But singlehood is whatever he's describing, the state of being unmarried. Which is what he talks about. And I don't know why most people view singleness as a curse. Most people view singleness as something to evade. You're still single.
At 25, at 25, as a lady, the society is on your case. Like, why are you still single? I don't know. You see, part of the society, exactly what we are talking about. But I feel like singleness is singlehood, whatever fits best, is a season. Is it a season or a stage where you should be growing yourself? You know, how will you grow into your purpose? How will you grow as a person if you ain't single? I mean, you have to be single first before you're dating or you're married. And he says, I'm trying to remember, he says that you should be single but not lonely. You're just alone.
Single but under construction.
Exactly.
You're becoming better each and every day.
Each and every day. And that is how it should be. I don't think people, it's actually a bad mentality that people should break.
I like to think of single as the state of being whole. Like we've just said, you can function as an individual without being attached to anybody else. That is being single. I need to function whole. And you know, he says something interesting as we come to the very last chapters of the book, that even in marriage, you should continue to be single in quotes. Like you can still function as a whole individual without really, you know, pegging it on somebody else. I'm not saying that in marriage you not have that, you know, relying on your partner and all that. After all, you will be working towards the same vision, but you need to function whole, not like, you see, what makes most people make, you know, wrong decisions is that idea of singleness being a place they want to flee. That when I am single, I am not dating, I'm not in a relationship with anyone, I cannot make sound decisions, which is so wrong.
It's so wrong. Wow. And when you're done being single, or in the process of finding a person, he says that we should be very intentional while dating. I was telling you, blessed are you that already got married, you know, because what's happening today is quite a lot with the dating aspect. You find that people are doing it for recreation, for fun, and he says that dating is not a destination, it's a journey
that needs an end. And no, the end must not be marriage. The end can be a breakup. Yeah.
Which is quite interesting thinking about it, because it brings us to it brings me to a realization that I should be open-minded. Something that I keep saying, if you've heard me have this conversation, the guys nowadays are not open-minded, you know. They think that, hey, if it's not studied at the ending in a mchele eating, it either has to be a funeral or a...
And you know, the sad thing is that there are those that are ending in funerals. For real.
It is.
People committing suicide over what? Dating is not a destination. Wow. Dating is a journey.
It's a journey.
And it's a journey to determine if this person, we can work something out in terms of marriage. So it has to be open-minded. If we cannot, we break it off.
Yeah. And he says break it off quickly.
In a good way.
Quickly, kindly, and cleanly.
Cleanly. Yeah. The characteristics of a good breakup. So I don't know what kind of breakups you guys have been having. Ama, you've just been ghosting people.
Yeah, we were talking about that too. Like, people ghost a lot nowadays. Yeah. But again, you weigh. I think it's proper. You weigh and you see whether you will have a worth it conversation. You know, some people are just complicated and...
True.
But I don't know. These are part of the areas that we so much need knowledge and wisdom in. That, hey, God help us. Yeah.
That's true. And again, I think that's why Mike Todd was emphasizing on relationship goals the God's way. Because once we are rooted in God, even when dating, you'll be intentional. It will not be recreational dating. You'll be intentional. You'll be of sound mind. You'll be able even to use your relationship with God to gauge. You know, he gives ways in which you can know who you can date. Is this person bringing glory to God? If it's not, it needs to end. True. Is the way we are dating bringing glory to God? Yeah. If all we are doing is heartaches and soul ties, which we will come to, and, you know, a lot of things that are against God, especially for believers, then it needs to end.
Yeah. So it brings me to a question which maybe we'll discuss. So we are talking in a certain container of belief, of faith, and for people who believe in God. So for those that don't, how is it for them?
Don't believe in God, believe in God. It boils down to the same thing. Even those that do not believe in God, at the end of the day, everyone is a relational being.
Yeah, that we establish.
And everybody. You know, Mike gave an example of a man who was in a nice relationship with his family and all that. And after his walk with God, you know, after he left the faith, everything started falling apart. Why? Because there's that channel that he had known. Yeah. Even those that are not believers, they have a sense of belief. We all have a spirit in us. Like
the spirit man, yeah?
The spirit man in us. Like there has to be a force that is bigger than you or that is higher than you, you see. So you'll see even people who don't really ascribe to, you know, faith per se, they will still refer to a greater power, a greater force than themselves.
True. I agree. And it's also interesting how Mike Todd quotes songs. Yeah?
At some point he was annoying.
Oh, wow. Okay.
He was annoying because, like, wouldn't you find some better examples to give us? He's quoting secular songs to bring his point across. Yeah. But I get it because he's not only targeting those in the faith, he's also targeting people who do not really believe, people who are of different faiths and that may be listening to such songs, and he'll be able to get to them through
the songs. Yeah. And in chapter 5, it's actually what caught my eye because it's a song that was an anthem back then, if you remember. Single ladies and all that. Anyway, let's not get to it because it was quite annoying. Yeah. And he asks a question: does it need to end? Yeah. You need to know when to put a ring on it or call it quits. Yeah.
Sure.
Because there is no need. We say that dating is not a destination. Don't feel comfortable there, which is a mistake many people are doing. Yeah.
True.
People dating for 4 or 5 years.
You know, he was talking about remember he was talking about the progression, that from singleness or rather singlehood, there has to be dating. And then after dating, there was the next stage of marriage, then love, then children. So it can't stop at dating.
It can't.
It's either you break it off or rather go to marriage. By breaking it off, it doesn't mean that you don't have another chance to. And there's no limit, my friends. There's no limit to these things.
I love what he says, that quitters doing. He says that, and it's something that caught my eye because we've been taught all along that quitters never win. But at some point, you will actually realize that cutting off some relationships makes you win. Yeah, the long run. So yeah, be careful. Like, fanya hesabu, see where to place your cards and everything. If it's not really leading to marriage, then why are you there?
Why waste time?
Why are you there? And I think that it's something that young people nowadays need to know. This thing you are dating for, knowing each other, for how long, and it doesn't actually make sense.
And there's this craziness of we can date just for fun. We both know that we're not going anywhere, but for our comfort, for the sake of it, we'll just go ahead with it.
It's a lot. It's a lot to even think about. But it's happening. It's good to acknowledge that it's happening.
It's happening?
Yeah. So as we come to the close, as we wrap up the book, what is your view of the chapters? Does marriage work? The 8, 7, 8, 9.
Marriage works. Marriage works, but it is work. Like, who doesn't like to see a nice marriage?
Nobody.
Who wouldn't go like, on a nice couple who have their, relationship working and all that. Everybody wants to win at marriage. Everyone wants to see their marriage working, but there is work that comes with it. And that is what he explains in the other chapters, the very last chapters, of what you need to do after you've identified, after you've moved from the dating stage, in marriage, how to make a good marriage, how to progress, how to now love intentionally in marriage. Yeah.
He actually says that it's not instant. Like, relationships are progress. Like, what the steps he mentions, from being single to dating to engagement to now, and I love something you also mentioned as we were talking before the show, of how love comes after marriage.
That caught my eye. And I thought about it and I was like, yeah, he's making sense. Because we would have expected that love will come somewhere after dating, or rather during dating.
Like, I have to love you so that I marry you. Most of us think that.
So love comes after marriage, but he was explaining that it is this now intentional love. And if we digress a bit and go back to Gary Chapman, remember he was talking about the in love feeling lasting for only 2 years. But marriage doesn't last 2 years.
It does.
So after that, it has to be intentional. And I think that is the same thing that Mike was also now talking about. That when you come to marriage, we have to know that God destined marriage to be eternal. Now I need to love you for who you are. Before marriage, I didn't know you snore. Now you snore, and there's nothing I can do about it.
And I hear it so loudly.
Just to love you as you are. And he gave an analogy of, salvation. That you just got born again. It is God that loved you, but your loving God came after salvation. You're like, no, I love God. I know I should give, so you start giving. And because I love God, I want to spend more time with him. So it really made a lot of sense.
So it's the love that builds even when after you're married. Yeah. And he maybe, so that we don't ignore a very important bit about the triangle, where he says that God in the middle, God at the center.
That for a good marriage, it doesn't take the two of you. God has to be part and parcel of that marriage. It has to be God, the man, and the wife. And he was drawing that triangle that as we move towards each other, and we're also getting closer to God. As we move closer to God, he's also bringing us closer to one another. And that in that is where God intended for, again, our children to come in. If God so blesses a union with children, they're supposed to come in that, complete triangle. It's a safe place for them.
You shouldn't allow yourself to bring people into the world without the love that we say. You remember when we were talking about the love languages, and you were given an instance where your father would appreciate things you do. Now, so much is happening right now, and I've had stories of people who have no relationships at all with their parents. So makes sense, him saying that God should be part and parcel of our relationships. And I think it's such a rich book. There is a guide as well. I don't know whether you've seen it. There is a guide as well.
To go through the book.
To go through the book. And we hope, guys, we haven't even done like 5% of that. So make sure you go grab yourself a copy. Skim through. We have read this book, I think, 3 times now.
I think it's my 4th time or so. And another very important thing that he talked about surrendering our sexuality. You know, sometimes people are like, if this sex is such a good thing, why is the church against it? You know, most people are like, church is all against sex. All they tell us is not to sex before marriage. He puts it in a very nice way, that sex is God's idea, and it's a good idea, but within the sex container, which is the marriage covenant. Yeah,
and I love that he points out that as much as there is condoms for safe sex, there isn't condom for the heart.
Very true. Very true.
That brings us now to soul ties, which is a whole other conversation that we will be having. So yeah, that is just a summary of the book actually. And for me, I feel like it wasn't a 10 out of 10 like I would give most of the
books. It wasn't.
There were a few things here in here that I felt that could be a controversy, but I appreciate the richness and the depth that is in A Relationship Goals by Mike Todd. So yeah, we are hoping to win in dating.
In relationships, marriage, dating, and in sex.
In sex as well.
Yes.
So wrap this up for us, and thank you for being on board.
I'm glad to be here. It's always a joy, like we always say. Knowledge is power. So grab yourself a copy of Relationship Goals, whether a hard copy or a soft copy. You need to win at this. If you are not planning to win in anything else, win at relationships. So thank you so much for joining us. This has been BookLab. Stay knowledgeable. Read, read, read.
See you guys.
Bye-bye.